Okay, and it shut itself off. We're turning it back on. So you were saying Trump and McMaster. It depends on who replaces
McMaster. But I've been saying for a while, McMaster needs to go. He needs to be fired and everything else. So, but the tweeting, the thing I like about it is it lets me know that Trump is still his own guy. Because he's clearly not being... That is Trump being Trump. And I love the fact that he's still free to do it.
I also like the fact for myself that he has a bigger Twitter following than the media has stuff. And so I also think that it makes the media react to him.
That's right.
Because that's what the media wants. The media and the left want us to react to them. Prove you're not a racist. Prove you're not a sexist. Prove you're not this. Trump tweets, and they have to react to try and prove, oh, this isn't the way. And by the time they make their case, Trump has already won the argument. Or made the argument to enough people that they're ready for the media.
Yeah.
I don't think the media's realized how compromised they are in terms of the minds of the people. I think they really don't get it.
They haven't, which is why they're so desperately trying to get him to stop tweeting. And it's the one time you see the guy spontaneous a lot, and it's not even his fault. Being president, it's weird. You're a figurehead in some ways, where they just prop you up and push you out because you need to make this statement or do this or do that. I just love the fact that he's still got that going. I hope it never stops.
All right, 2018.
Yeah.
You've got a one-seat advantage for Republicans in the Senate, but a very favorable map. You need to hold the 25 seats in the House to keep the House. Does the GOP hold House and Senate, and what can Trump do to help them do it?
I think he holds the House and Senate. I think what he does is not focus on those races. If you look at it, when Trump has gotten involved in races, he has not helped. Roy Moore, Luther Strange, Roy Moore being the perfect example. He came out for Strange lost. Came out for Moore lost. But I could go down the list. At House races, he's done a little bit better because it was favorable. I think he just does his thing. I just think he remains president and that's it. I don't think he should get involved in those downstream races. I think it's a distraction. I think the Republicans, as you say, and you're completely correct. The Republicans should lose the Senate if history's the gauge. But looking at the map, you're exactly right. They're probably going to hold on to it because of the map.
They'll probably gain seats. I would not be surprised to see them at 55.
That's right. But history would tell you in the midterms you lose. But the map tells. Same thing with the House. There's a lot of people retiring, but that's fine. And so I think the Republicans will hold on to the House and the Senate, actually.
And I think people forget that the biggest advantage of the House that the Republicans have is that in the maps that the district maps were drawn after the big red wave of 2010 in all those states. I mean, that's the thing that's going to make the difference, and that's people are not talking about that at all.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, and that's a betting game to some extent, and a lot can change between February and November. That being said, prognosticating, I'm not even taking a rooting interest. I agree. I think that they hold the Senate. I think they hold the House and piss off the Democrats.
Oh, they'll go nuts
one of
the biggest disappointment in the Roy Moore race wasn't the fact that the other guy won.
Yeah.
Because something actually happened after the race that made me feel a little bit better about the result. I'll tell you in a few seconds. But the idea that it inspired the other side, made them so happy.
Yes.
And it's reached the point where part of winning is watching, the Conan line, to see the lamentation of the win of the enemies.
I'll tell you the X factor in both the Gillespie race in Virginia and in Alabama no one talks about. Because I've seen it, because I've covered a lot of protests. The Black Lives Matter protests were happening in the past 5 years. At every one of the protests, they were doing organizing. They were showing people you saw the marches, but I saw the behind the scenes where they're teaching organizers. The black vote it was organization that got out the black vote in Virginia and Alabama, and a complete lack of outreach. Roy Moore did not go, as soon as you say, oh, well, black people are never going to vote for us, you lost, right? If you go in and you say, we're Republicans. This is what we believe. We're pro-life, for instance, and we think that abortion is black genocide, basically. And have I told you about Margaret Sanger? How many black people do you need to change?
If Trump gets 20% of the black people, and I talked to you about that woman I interviewed in Bethesda, then I think the game is over.
If you flip 4% of the black vote, 4%. So in other words, they would have voted this way, now they vote this way. That's an 8-point swing. Does that make sense? Because they would have voted Democrat, now they're voting Republican. So that's an 8-point swing. That would have won it in places like Alabama and Virginia. But what happened was the black vote, because of the Black Lives Matter movement, has been organized. So there's a get out the vote drive. There's everything. I mean, at a real basic organizational level, and Republicans just don't flip and show up, and it makes me nuts because, quite frankly, on issues like abortion, the Nation of Islam. Do you know who hates Margaret Sanger?
The Nation of Islam.
Nation of Islam. I talked to a guy from Nation of Islam last year. They were going around doing a speaking tour, warning people about the origins of Planned Parenthood. It could have come out of CPAC.
Could have come out of me.
It could have come out of you. And so this is what I'm saying. If you do it in a way that's like that you're not cynical about it, you're like, no, we're opposed to abortion, and we think too many black babies are being killed, right?
Of course, I think any baby is
right, but
I know what you mean.
But the numbers are much higher. There's some,
the number of black
abortion rates.
It's phenomenally high.
So if people know you mean it, right? If it's from the heart, that sort of thing, and there's other areas like that. Oh, I think we should have more economic opportunity in black communities, whatever. So you watch. That's the other X factor here, is the organization of black. It's not going to affect every race, but it's going to affect a couple.
All right, final question. DACA for the wall. Do you make the deal? And does Trump even have to make the deal? After the speech he gave here yesterday, he's saying DACA looks like it's dying, it'll be the Democrats' fault, and you're going to get your wall. Does he have to make a deal? But if he makes the deal, does he? Should he?
So I had Mark Krikorian on my radio show a few weeks ago.
I meant to see him. I didn't see him while I was down here.
Mark's from the Center for Immigration Studies.
I know him. Yep.
He's one of the only real stalwarts in Washington on. And I asked him, this is when they were, he said, look, if it's a good deal, I can deal with it. I thought the DACA deal that Trump, the framework that Trump presented, especially putting it off 10 years, citizenship, I thought it was a good deal if they were going to stick to that. The Democrats could have come back and said, why don't we do 8 instead of 10? Why don't we reduce the lottery but not get rid of it? Why don't you follow me?
Things that they could have tweaked later.
They could have gotten. They could have gotten 8 years. I'll bet. And by the way, the Republican base would not have exploded. They would have gone. Okay.
We got our wall.
Okay, but we want 30 million and not 20 million for the wall or whatever. You see what I'm saying? They would have had to do that. The Democrats have shown they aren't serious on it at all in any way. And by Chuck Schumer folding over a government shutdown that basically lasted half a day, because it went in on a Friday night and it ended noon Monday.
I mean, the polling on this just destroyed them. And the thing is, a lot of us on the right saw that this was killing them, and they didn't see it until their first focus groups came in.
And it killed them with their own base is the problem. If you're a dreamer, the person you were mad at was Chuck Schumer, because you're like, you have no spine whatsoever. You couldn't even hold out a day. What? So in other words, if you're gonna shut down the government over that, do it for more than a half a day. Do it for a couple days to show that, look, we tried. And then Pelosi had to try to. Pelosi spoke when she did that big speech. She spoke for longer than the government was shut down.
That's a line I was not aware of.
Yeah, well, think about it.
She spoke for longer than the government was shut
down.
I'm gonna steal that from you.
Yeah, you should. You should. It's a good. I just made it up, but it's true. The reason she had to do that, I don't know if you know this. Nancy Pelosi's getting on in years. I couldn't speak for 8 hours. She's older than me, but it was an impressive longevity thing. The reason she had to do it was she had to come back and basically say to the Dreamers,
"Don't go."
Because look, I'm trying. We're trying. I spoke for 8 hours. And Chuck Schumer may have. So I think they really screwed themselves with that. Now, by the way, if the Democrats had gotten the deal, they also would have screwed themselves. Because the Dreamers, this is the problem the Democrats have with the LGBT community right now. Once you gave, the big donor base for Democrats was gay men, because they have 2 male incomes. Does that make sense?
That's a good point.
2 guys. So you have a bigger income. 2 lesbians have 2 female incomes. It's a smaller income. So the gay males were a big part of the donor base for the Democrats. Now what's happened is those same gay males who were coming out for the Democrats for same-sex marriage, now they got same-sex marriage. So now they're looking at it going, wait a minute, we're paying what in taxes? Hang on, hold up. And so you've had a lot of the gay donor base say to the Democrats, thanks, they're a victim of their own success. In other words, they gave them something. If they had gotten that deal for the Dreamers have been the main protest groups in immigration for the past 2 years, right? Mm-hmm. The Dreamers would have gone, okay, well, we got what we wanted, thanks, bye-bye. And you wouldn't have had those bodies in the streets. So maybe you'll still get the bodies. This might work out okay for the Democrats, but the Democrats really, like I say, when you talk to people on the left, they're like, oh yeah, we lost the gay male donor base. And it's hurt them. It's hurt them. Because they gave, there you go, you won. Congratulations. And so now they're just like everybody else.
So by your argument, the left hopes that Trump names can replace Ginsburg with a conservative and have the gay marriage decision reversed simply because they want to get that base back.
That would, yes, absolutely. That would completely fire up the base. See, because here's the thing.
Because it's all about getting the money and living well.
Exactly right. And the affluent gay male donor base, what's in it for them at this point? Because I've talked to people from that side, and they go, do you think they care about, like, if you're a gay male, you don't really care about transgender, you just don't. You don't care about transgender rights. There's a very point thing. You're like, well, we got ours. Okay, we're good. And now what you're left with is, wait, we're going to pay how much in taxes? You guys are going to do what? Well, we're not really in favor of that. So you watch. It's the same thing. This is part of the problem the unions have had.
I actually think the Democrats are going to dump the gays within 20 years, and they're going to dump in for the Muslims because of the simple mathematics. I think that's why you had the reaction you did to the
I will tell you the other thing that I found out from being in Washington. They're having problems with the Muslim base, too. They went to...
Okay, this is news to me. I'm not aware of this.
Yeah, this is 100% to happen. There was a meeting with top Muslim leaders where the Democrats were trying to get them on board. And they had a gay Democrat write the agenda that they wanted everybody, including CARE, to sign off on. And part of it was, you got to be in favor of same-sex marriage.
Muslims didn't do it?
Absolutely not. And abortion. And the Muslims were like, including CARE, were like, we're not down with same-sex marriage or abortion. And we don't even know why you're trying to get us to... So in other words, this is the problem that they've got.
And it's going to be a choice, and they're going to choose the Muslims in the long run.
Right. Well, now they're going to, because I think same-sex marriage is settled. I think that's settled law. I think that's...
Don't be too sure, but we'll see.
Well, but we'll see. But I think it's like right now, to me, that's not a live political issue. So therefore, I don't think the Democrats are really going to focus on it at all. And then you're right; they may have to kowtow.
It's the Tom Hagen math.
Yeah, but this is the same problem the unions have had for years. The problem the unions had was once the unions won 40-hour work week, paid overtime, safety protections, what's left? In other words, that's all the law of the land now. Does that make sense?
No, it makes sense, and that's the difference, and that's why you have the unions doing what they did, because if you make your money being an activist,
that's right.
You never want to achieve your there always has to be a crisis because people won't donate, which is why me and you make small livings because, right. I mean, my whole tip jar last year was $12,000, including a fair amount that came after I got laid off in December.
Yeah.
So, because they knew I was down. But for people who are making $50,000 or $60,000 or $100,000 and are making it from scaring other people into giving them money, they need that crisis forever.
The unions at a certain, there was a point where the unions decades ago, where the unions had valid points. They were trying to fight, like I say, 40-hour work week, paid overtime, all that stuff, right? Okay, great. Once they got it, then suddenly, what are you fighting for? That's all the law. And so you can see this. And by the way, the Republicans, they have similar problems on their side. Sometimes you win an issue so much that it's hard to get the base on. But a lot of these cultural victories have gone to the Democrats lately, and it's hurt them. It's hurt them. So keeping the Dreamers upset is to the Democrats' advantage now.
But not if they end up upset at them. If Trump makes a deal, if Trump
a
does something, that's going to be a problem. All right, now we're more than this is the longest interview I've done at CPAC, and it's the best. I never do interviews like this. I wish I did more because this is great stuff. Where can people find you? You mentioned Sputnik Radio.
So the best thing is Stranahan on Twitter, at Stranahan.
That's where I see you the most.
Twitter, because all my radio shows.
Do you do Gab as well?
And then I don't do Gab yet, no. I'm just very limited. And I host a radio show Monday through Friday. We put the segments on Twitter. Populous.tv and citizenjournalismschool.com. That's the big one. Citizen Journalism School. I ran into a student here. It's fantastic. And that's something we're really trying to build up in the next year as a way to fulfill Andrew Breitbart's vision of citizen journalism by teaching people how to do it right.
Well, I try my best.
What's that?
I try my best. Lee, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, you bet, Pete.